What's up, everybody? This is Edward back with another video, another episode of Everybody Hates Black Men. I'm your host, Edward Anderson. This is kind of something on the lighter end, but you know, a lot of the topics I talk about are on the more serious end, but we want to, sometimes I go a little bit harder than others, especially in my live streams. Appreciate all the new subscribers. I see I got quite a couple of new subscribers, and make sure, you know, I need to do a better job at basically breaking down my live streams into bits and pieces so people can see them. That will be happening soon enough because that's an easier way for me to kind of get content out there. But when I go through that, I'll probably have to kind of censor some of that stuff. Not edit it out, but do a lot of bleeping and stuff to make sure it goes through. But make sure you all check out my live streams because that's where the best action is. Anybody that's been subscribing to me for a while will tell you that. That is where the action is. But today, I want to talk about a quick video. You know, one thing that you're starting to see go around social media is you're in the background is this idea that porn, you know, I'm not here to defend porn. That's not what this video is about. However, a lot of times people want to create these one size fits all problems in order to say if we just fix this thing, we'll fix everything, which is BS. The other thing is a lot of people, the powers that be, whether it's people that are funded by AstroTurf, you know, top down, funded by elites, or people that they want to get as close as they can. I call it the Icarus effect. They want to get as close as they can to telling it like it is because it's so undeniable at this point, and they don't want to be seen. They want to at least be branded as a complete shill. However, or panderer. However, the money comes first. And if it's a decision between the truth and the money, they're always going to choose the money. That's the difference, by the way, between an activist and somebody that is really serious about solving and somebody that's really just here to make money. It's not necessarily binary, but generally people either fall into their priority is to get paid or their priority is to make things happen. Generally, if they got to pick one, they're going to pick one, regardless. You know, and for example, the activists will say there's other ways of making money. I need to get paid. I need to, you know, be able to sustain what I'm doing. Because let's be clear here. It takes time to make content. No matter, even if people are just throwing stuff up here, it takes time to make content. It takes time to edit this stuff. Some people are more efficient at it than others. And your scope is generally going to be predicated on how much time you can commit to this stuff, how much resources you can put to this stuff. So yeah, support helps and stuff like that helps. You should support your own message, whether it's me or somebody else. But this video is on the lighter end, and so let's just jump right into it.
I don't think you know how big 12 inches is. Do you see that? Just in scale, where is that going? Not in here, okay? The average gal is going to get about that much. Maybe this, if they're a pro. But the rest of that, completely unmanageable. This is the biggest I've ever seen in real life. But this is fine. It's completely fine. This, fabulous. Almost too big. Definitely too big. Fucking sick day, ER, 27 club, and now I'm just skipping my next life. Anything after that is entirely unethical. I don't think we know what we're talking about.
As you all can see, you know, lily white woman talking about, you know, phallus sizes. And it seems funny, but when you really think about it, one of the things that women like to use in order to shame men, to control men, I tell you the main two mechanisms that women use to control men is through ego, emotional manipulation, and that is through ego and guilt. Ego and guilt. Ego and guilt. And they do this by, you know, it's guilt tripping you for what men have, even stuff you may not have anything to do with. But they try to guilt trip you about you're not holding other men accountable. Their father wasn't there. You know, single mother guilt. You know, they try to act like it's all black men's fault as if these women don't have control issues, as if these women are not choosing men based on control. Fatherhood is one of the last things, you know, that they're looking at. But they sit here and want to blame you for their messed up sexual choices And because they get black boys at such a young age, black boys fall for that shit. It's really insidious. When you really understand what's going on, it's really insidious how they emotionally imprint. They put these emotional trauma bonds on these boys early. And they use that later on in life to manipulate them when it comes to getting them to do stuff. And they act like they're not doing it. But the other side of it, and I don't talk about this side a lot, is guilt. I mean, not ego. And things, obviously, one of the more classic ways of talking about somebody's ego is how big their phallus is. Right?
Yeah, your girlfriend's the only one that want that shit. Trust me, daddy. Trust me. Your bitch the only one that want that shit. Fuck all y'all.
As you can see, when they get mad, that is their favorite, pastime to do. Even though this chick, let the dude hit. And, he's paid, but this is the game they like to play. But, it's really important. The other thing, and this is why I wanted to bring porn into it, is because there's this idea that porn creates this this thing where it creates a burden, an unfair burden of performance on women. And I actually believe the opposite is true. Porn it's not even close. Porn may have affected men more. Yeah, I'll give that. But the idea of burden of performance has been squarely put on the men and the males. The males have to fulfill those standards that are based on mainly genetics. You hear the white boys, I mean, literally a lot of stuff that black men deal with, shout out to Dr. Francis Quartz Welsing, has to do with the genetic threat that black males pose. In the eyes of white society, in the eyes of all races of men. In fact, check this clip out with BGS.
Now you get this low-key jealousy and dirty macking against African-American men, of all people. African-American men are the only men on the freaking planet where the men in that country actively are against you dating their women. I've never heard a Chinese guy talk about a Chinese woman marrying or dating a white guy. Never heard that African people are against a white guy dating an African woman or a Japanese woman or a Filipino woman or a Latina. It's only when African-American men invade the space, all of a sudden you get this low-key jealousy. I don't know what it is. Maybe they think that we are beneath everybody. And it's an affront to them for us to date them. It's an affront for us to actually go woo their women and woo their women without money sometimes.
Make sure you check out that video. That link will be in the description on that video. But my point is that the burden of performance has been increased and the expectations of women. Porn has done a lot to increase that. Most of the things that the porn are they doing more extreme acts, but actual physical acts that if you watch porn or you've watched it, which everybody's watched it at least once, they're not asking them to do nothing that they're not capable of doing. Quiet as it's kept, a lot of these pretty chicks, they have a reputation for those dudes that know of just being dead bodies and just laying there, and that's all they have to do. And not being enthusiastic about it. Also, by the way, follow that Instagram channel. It's a very funny channel when it comes to, calling the league. I'm actually about to take a little bit of that and call it the League of Extraordinary Whores. Because basically we're dealing with the amateur league out here. But my point is that performance has been put on the men, the males. It is not put on necessarily the females like people like to say it is. So porn is this abstract thing that whether you're a track con or whatever, they can just point to that and kind of have that be, well, we've gotten away from family values and that's why the women act the way they act. No, that's not why the women act the way they act. The women act the way they act because the elites, mainly Caucasian or Caucasian lookalike people basically have used feminism as a class warfare tactic to basically give men something to constantly have to deal with while they extract resources from the economy, mainly through hyper consumerism that the females are on, giving them jobs and then turn around and selling them products for them to give that money back, creating a hyperloop of consumerism and useless employment, which is why AI is burning through a lot of their jobs now. And women have an employment crisis. And so you hear these women, going back to the video, talking about all these sizes. You know, it never comes down to the point where if you are out here saying you need a 10-inch, penis, there's no way you can have a tight coochie. Nobody never talks about, a woman's coochie just isn't tight. It's always a man's dick isn't big enough. And so these are things that people don't like to talk about, but these are things that are always in the background. So anyway, obviously, so you hear these women that probably have never had, women that never have sex with dudes that are 10 inches, 12 inches, but somehow they act like that's the norm. It's the same thing that when these women talk about, a woman is a 10, Lizzo is a 10, even though she's fat. It's that same BS. That same perceptual, emotional BS that keeps getting pulled. And a lot of dudes, unfortunately, fall for that. And because this stuff doesn't get challenged, because the idea is if you're challenging it, then that must mean you're insecure, right? So anyway, I just wanted to highlight this. Found this on the internet and pushed this out. Clock in for the day. Like I said, I'll be putting out more videos quicker, but I wanted to get you all something to think about on this Sunday. Anyway, let me know what you think. Do you think these women be capping about how much D they can take, about how much D they had? Do you think they use that as mainly a mechanism in order to try to guilt, attack men's egos to manipulate them? Do you think this chick just can't take D that's talking in the video below? Do you believe that porn has affected females' expectations or more men's expectations? I get people will say, well, before porn, you couldn't see a naked body that easily. Yeah, that's true. But as far as the burden of performance, that's what I'm talking about. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you click on the links in the description. And let me know if you like the videos, if you like the aesthetic. These videos will be improving always. And with that being said, this is Edward signing off. Peace.